Peace and blessings, everybody. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another edition of Royalty with Saran. And today it's just me, people. You have only me. I know last week we had a very powerful, powerful session um, as we learned more about Kemetic yoga and the benefit of breathing well and things like that. Today, we're taking a slightly different angle at wellness. Today, we're going to be discussing the importance of rest and sleep. And, we're also going to discuss the slight differentiation between the two. And I invite you to get comfortable. I think when we think about sleep, we often just look at it, oh, it's important to get sleep. And we kind of minimize the impact that proper sleep has on the way in which our bodies function, the different ailments that we have, how it mitigates it, how it worsens it, and things like that. So we're going to be discussing sleep and rest today, and we're going to be looking at some of the negative impact on the body caused by sleep deprivation. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Please know that the information that I share is information to pique your interest. It's not an end all and be all, like, I'm giving you gospel. It's very important for us to do our own research utilizing the very same device that you're using to watch me now. You can further increase your information pool by doing some research. And when I tell you, I think one of the major upsides to having the internet is that you have access to very, very current information. And I think in the last decade, so much research and so many studies have been done on sleep that the information out there is quite profound. And I invite you to get comfortable. Please get your herbal tea. You know how we do it here. I may not be able to drink mine, but I definitely invite you to get comfortable with yours. Um, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can drop in the comment section what you're sipping on. So today we're going to be discussing, like I said, sleep and rest. Major difference between the two, but we're going to get into that. But I think for the most part, there's no need to really define anything. We all kind of grasp the concept of sleep. Um, I think one of the things that we need to pay attention to when we talk about sleep and when we talk about the absence of sleep, when we look at the psychology behind it, there's a major, major difference between, there's bragging oftentimes. Oh, I only slept 2 hours last night and I stayed up all night to get the project done and that type of thing. There's a lot of bragging and boasting um, that takes place when people deprive themselves of sleep. It's almost like we're proud to say it. I'm so ambitious, I work so hard, and that type of thing. And on the flip side, for persons who really, really cannot go without 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, it's almost frowned upon. And not only is it frowned upon, the person is kind of surmised to be sort of lazy, and if we really understood the impact that sleep has on the body, then those paradigms would be completely opposite. But so here we go. We're going to be looking at the ways in which sleep deprivation impact the body. I should first start by saying let me see one moment. Okay, so for everyone joining, I think I'm going to start with probably the most alarming research that I uncovered probably within the last year. The CDC, now pay attention with me, people. The CDC has now listed not sleep deprivation, night shift work. So for persons who work night shift consistently, they have now labeled night shift work a possible carcinogen. Okay, I just want that to just sit with you for a little bit. Carcinogen. And if we understand what carcinogen means, it means cancer causing, that just to simplify it. And so it tells you something. This isn't a conclusion that was made without studies, without backing and support behind of it. And so my thing is, if it's considered a carcinogen, according to them, we should know how significant it really is, because oftentimes they're very, they're very slow to make those type of announcements. And so for those of us who are in the know, we know there are, other things that are deemed carcinogen that they haven't really, proclaimed as such, to put it nicely. And so when you think about that, and you also consider the fact that so many of us now are, we have a cousin, we have somebody we would have lost to cancer, somebody who's suffering, a neighbor or whatever. We're all within very, very close access to persons suffering from cancer. And not that I'm saying, okay, well, the cause of it is sleep deprivation, but it certainly is a significant contributing factor if it's considered a carcinogen by CDC. Okay, so that's the first one I wanted to start with, because it really awakens our thinking in terms of what we do with our bodies. I think today, lack of sleep is just, it's just a commonplace thing. In fact, research has shown that we have, over the last 50 years, we have kind of pretty much shaved off an hour to an hour and a half off of our typical rest as human beings without really being able to justify it, especially considering the harmful effects on the body because of the lack of sleep. Okay, so again, I encourage everybody, use the internet. Don't just limit it for the TikTok kikikis and things like that. Really, really do some research so that when you're in a position to speak or to encourage persons to do better, you're actually armed with the information to do so. Okay, so that's the position. Now, if, like I said, cancer causing, that's what a carcinogen is, right? We need to do better where rest is concerned. We need to do better where sleep is concerned. And we can no longer justify it as, oh, I work hard, so I stay up and things like that. There's no justification for it when we are able to look at studies that reveal the reasons why it's considered a carcinogen. Okay, so for those of us who have to work night shift, just know, and that's the important thing, knowledge is power. So once you know, you already know that you're operating from a place of deficit. So you have to make sure that you're able to clean up the other aspects that may contribute to things like cancers and things like that. Okay, so now, another thing that I want to speak about is the all-nighters. As students, we brag and we boast about it. As employees, it's almost like a badge of honor to say that, I stayed up all night and I did this and, I accomplished so much. But the reality is, nothing is really improved when you deprive yourself of sleep. Nothing. Your cognition, the way in which you're right, the way in which you're able to express yourself, the way in which you write, the way in which, everything flows from you different when you're actually fully charged as opposed to running on E. Okay. There is a lot of information on the internet, people. Do get your hand on it. MRI scans reveal that once a person has been deprived of sleep for one night, one single night, the way in which their brain functions and the way in which we're able to retain information is compromised by as much as 40%. So all this, oh, I'm gonna just stay up and study, it's almost counterproductive when you think about it, because 40% compromise on your ability to remember anything is quite significant. If we're looking at it as in terms of a grade, you're already starting 40% behind, and it really, I mean, we've all been there, we've all done that. But like I said, with the access to more information, we're all also armed in a different way that we can flex and decide to move and maneuver through life differently. Um, so the hippocampus is the part of the brain that is responsible for storage of information and things like that. And like I said, the MRI scans reveal that it pretty much goes quiet, almost docile, when the person is deprived of sleep. And so when you look on the flip side, persons who are properly rested, persons who have enjoyed 6 hours or more sleep, the hippocampus is active and it's ready to retain information. It actually transfers information from your temporary pool to your permanent pool. And I know a lot of us can relate to it. High school days for the Caribbean people, CXC, you go and you cram for a CXC exam, or you cram for whatever, and you may be able to get some of it out on paper, but you can't ask, you can't be asked about it 2 hours after the exam. It's like you don't even know what you just studied or what you just put on the paper, because the information definitely is not in your permanent state, and so that's one of the things that I find very interesting, as we say, I have to study and I have to do this, and in reality we operate on a deficit. And like I said, it's a deficit of almost 40%, and that's major. Okay, so let's look at the other factors that happens over time when we deprive ourselves of sleep. Over time, you will notice that if you're consistently going to bed, let's say 2 o'clock in the morning, and you wake up at 6, and as bad as that sounds, that's a lot of our lifestyle these days. We stay up late because that's almost like downtime, relaxation time, where you get to peruse the internet because you're busy doing work in the daytime, and so when you deprive yourself of that amount of sleep consistently, you're going to notice that your body adjusts to it, quote unquote. And also what happens is that your cognition slowly over time continues to erode, slowly but surely. And when you do any research in terms of sleep deprivation, and it's direct link to things like Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that, we're not, it's very, very important, very, very important for us to truly pay attention to sleep, you know. That cannot be overlooked. I think all of us have had, whether it be a friend or somebody who has seen, we've witnessed the impact that things like dementia and stuff, those are really, really hard diseases to watch. Very, very difficult for persons who have to face it themselves, or your loved ones facing it is very, very challenging on a family. And of course, in terms of what we do in terms of your wellness, you can't be, in a state of wellness if that's your constant stressor. And so it's important for us as a people to pay attention to things like that. It's no longer sleeping in terms of convenience. Sleeping must be viewed as a very effective way to combat and to also prevent certain diseases. Okay. Now, when we think about the impact of sleep deprivation on the body, one of the things that we'll notice, it puts our body in a different state of being. It throws our rhythm off. And we operate, if you watched last week's show, and if you didn't, I highly encourage you to check out the YouTube page for that, because that was very, very powerful, especially as the king alluded to the importance of getting out of the fight or flight mode. You know, a lot of us operate from there. And so we can't seem to turn off our switches at the end of the night. We're still wondering about this. We're still stressing about the job. We're still doing a lot of things because our bodies are literally still racing. You know, and there are many things that we can do, and we're going to touch on that towards the end of the show. But I do want to encourage us to just notice how your body feels next day when you didn't get enough sleep. Not only the sleepiness that you might feel on the job, just think about the rhythm that your body is in throughout the day. It's almost like it's a panting, anxiety filled type of feeling. And it's something that we need to do better where that is concerned. And we're gonna have to put life in perspective. You know, I think at the end of the day, that's really the key to really shifting out of some of the new norms that we have now adjusted to as a people. And I absolutely no judgment, because I think for me, I'm a creative being, and nighttime is my time, you know. But when you really do the research, you tell yourself, man, it's not worth the risk. And it's also not worth being semi-functional throughout the day, because that's exactly what it is when we don't get enough rest. For persons who are trying to lose weight, another thing that you'll notice, if you're sleeping very short hours, it's going to be super, super difficult, because again, your body is in fight or flight mode. It's racing without you recognizing that you're racing. It's almost like the king said the last time, a tiger is chasing you and you're running, but in reality, you're just in the gym, you're working out, you're doing whatever. But that's actually what's taking place. Even when you're sitting, your body is racing because there's a natural rhythm. And I think one of the things that we tend to do as a people, we only look at our lifestyle from a perspective of, you know, your family and what you do and things like that. And we need to recognize that at the end of the day, this isn't the beginning of time for humanity. You know, and when we look back at what was sleep deprivation 100 years ago? And I'm not looking at it in the context of our very dark and treacherous history, but think about the ideal circumstance for human beings back in the day. There was no such thing as sleep deprivation. You worked throughout the day, you did whatever you had to do, and at nighttime, just as the sun went down, we went down, you know. And so we have normalized the get up and go, the hustle type energy throughout the day. And then when you get home, there's no shutdown. And we really, really need to adjust the way in which we look at life where that is concerned. So let's look at the impact of sleep deprivation on the reproductive organs. Queens, if you're trying to conceive, try to get minimum 7 hours. And when I say 7 hours, it doesn't mean that you're going to stay in the bed for 7 hours. It means that you have to give yourself at least an allotment of 8 hours. You understand? Again, getting your body out of the hustle panic mode is very important for conceiving. It's also very important, a key component to your libido functioning the way it should. You know, I think the kings are often told, I'm tired. and it's a legitimate excuse. We're not excited about intimacy, physical contact, and things like that when we're tired. The simplest touch is off-putting. It's very, it's such a turn off. All you really want to do is rest. And that's, yeah. Why? Because we're sleep deprived. Another thing, for men, we tend to point a lot of fingers at women in terms of when we think about procreation and things like that. Um, for men, if you're sleeping 4 hours a night on average, your testosterone levels are going to be that of somebody who's 10 years older than you. So if you're 33, it's going to be at the level of somebody 43 at 53. You get what I mean? So there's no youthfulness to you. Everything about procreation and things like that are compromised significantly because of lack of sleep or loss of sleep. Or another thing that we do too, we go to bed and we might sleep an hour or two, and then we're up. And then we're up. We sleep in spots throughout the night. We're up, then we take up our phone, we see what's going on Instagram, we check out Facebook, we do all these things. But yeah, we really need to commit a lot of attention and a lot of effort to getting proper rest. One of the things that we can note for the persons in the Caribbean, we can look at the US and see very clearly. There's this thing that they do, the daylight savings, where all of a sudden an hour out of the night disappears, right? And that's a day to pay attention to. There's a lot of research done on the next day, what happens in America on those days when everybody lose an hour's sleep. Pretty much, because as you slept, your alarm goes off for 6 o'clock as it normally would, but you would have lost an hour's sleep in between there. There are studies that reveal that heart attacks go up by 24%. 24% next day after losing an hour's sleep. Car crashes increase significantly as well. And on the flip side, in the fall, when you fall back where you gain an hour, it is the opposite is true. And another thing with the daylight savings that's noted too, suicides are up on the next day after losing an hour's sleep. So there's a lot, that we don't pay attention to in terms of the value that we place on sleep, in terms of how we move, how we feel, and things like that. Anxiety, depression, and things like that are really through the roof now. And there are many, many reasons that we can point fingers at. But I'll tell you this much, sleeping is a major, major one. If you're not resting, you're not going to think right. And notice what I said there. I said, if you're not resting, because some of us, we go to bed and, everything blaring, you have your TV on, your phone over there with YouTube, and there's so much taking place, and we fall asleep like that. We're not truly resting when we do that. You might be physically sleeping, but you're really not getting rest because your subconscious mind is busy, active. It doesn't get a time to release and to relax. So we need to pay attention to that. For those of us who are keen on ensuring that our immune system stay robust, sleep is a must. I mean, when I look at some of the studies online, I was like, there is no way. But we can all reflect, when you have a lot going on in a small window of time, and let's say you're working around the clock and you're doing work outside 3 a.m. and things like that, you notice, yeah, at the end of everything, you have a scratchy throat. You might be catching a cold and things like that. It's the compromise of the immune system because of a lack of sleep. But we would tell ourselves, Oh, it's because I was outside at 3. It's your immune system, the fighters awake, and I think we just overlook the significance of really getting good sleep. Now, I don't like to advocate and say, oh, well, everybody should get 8 hours or whatever, but we should. I would say if you're not getting 6 hours, you're not you're not doing nothing you should brag about. And I am seriously talking to myself. For some reason, I'm unable to see the comment section today. Um, I'm not sure why, but peace and blessings to everybody who may have commented either on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, but another thing that we need to know is that there's a major difference between sedation and sleep. So a lot of people now have resorted to, okay, I'm just going to take a sleeping pill and I'm just going to go to sleep. What it does is shuts everything down. And in reality, that isn't really sleep, not rejuvenating sleep. You don't get beautiful dreams with that. Anyhow, we'll discuss the way in which things like alcohol affect our sleep, and yeah, there's a lot of pushback because oftentimes we hear, oh, get a nightcap. And some persons are advocates for having a glass of wine before bed and all that type of thing, but the reality is alcohol compromises the way in which we sleep. Yes, you may be knocked out, but like I said, there's a difference between sleeping and resting as opposed to just being sedated. What you'll notice, if that is eliminated, if whatever your source of sedation is eliminated, you can't go back to sleeping naturally. You usually struggle, and that we'll notice with persons who are on sleeping pills. They can legit only sleep when they take those. Outside of that, their bodies are unable to wind down and get rest on its own. So anyhow, that's how that is. Now, for the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases that plague our community, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, all of it, there's not a single one that is made leveled or is improved by lack of sleep. Nothing. Every single one is made worse by the lack of sleep. And we must, like I was saying before, it's important for us to take ourselves out of the picture and just imagine these beings not being able to shut down and rest and recharge. We do that for our vehicles. When it's maintenance time, we know that we have to do that. If it's running low on gas, we know we have to refuel. And for us, we have somehow justified in our minds or convinced ourselves that we're so powerful and we're so unstoppable that we can run on E and we can do this and we can go drive heavy duty vehicles and we can do all of these things running on E. It's very, very important for us to pay attention to the things that we do because, like I said, with the access to information, there's really no justification. And when we go about and we brag about, oh, yeah, no worry, this weekend, and for Caribbean people, we already know that, all the late night fetting and things like that. And this is one thing that we have to plant in our heads as fact. There is no catching up on sleep. We tell ourselves that all the time. Oh, okay, I'll catch up on sleep because I'm off on Monday and things like that. And we do that as if we can somehow go back and catch up on the sleep that you lost. We can't do it. The time period, the allotment for that sleep window has closed and there's no way of reversing it and getting back into that time. So there's no catching up on sleep ever, ever. Don't let nobody fool you. So if you have you have fet on Friday, you have fet on Saturday, there's no amount of sleep that you can do on Tuesday that can cause repair to that. None. You know, one moment, let me see if I am able to. I'm gonna see if I can use two platforms and get on to the comment section using the other device here. It might echo. I'm not sure. I'm testing. Let's see. Oh man. My apologies. Just do. No, that won't work. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do it without the comments, people. My apologies. Um, this is another thing that we think we of the mindset that you know I can just function off at 3 hours and things like that, and I can still go about and do what is expected of me the next day. Now, where our performances are concerned, there's always going to be a compromise. And I want to bring our attention to elite athletes and what they do and what their regimens look like. And it's because they recognize the importance of rebuilding, repairing your body as you rest. Now, there's a suggestion that Usain Bolt, when he broke the record at Olympics, prior to going out, he was only up for half an hour because he was taking a nap. And now remember, I'm not, I don't think I remember where he was at the time, but I'm quite sure it was, I'm quite sure that there was a significant difference in terms of the time zone and things like that that he was accustomed to. But nonetheless, he woke up, I think they said 35 minutes, and then went out and broke the world record. Persons like Roger Federer, what's the guy, LeBron, and the other elite athletes where they have teams behind them working out a plan as to peak performance. And rest is what they do. LeBron said he doesn't go a day without sleeping 9 hours. But we figure that, we can sleep a little 4 hours and we can go on the court and act like, and we can go on at the gym, lift weight, and we want to get caught up on, things like that. But we're not really performing at our peak because of the lack of sleep. But, nobody's really talking about things like this. But anyway, I want to go back to the conditions that I mentioned, the NCDs, in terms of like the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the issues that are plaguing our community, the womb issues, the hormonal imbalance. When you think about everything, notice good what happens when you rest, right? When you rest, your body is in repair mode. So if you have issues of the womb, we need to sleep. We need rest. So this, just thinking that 4 hours is enough is really, a huge disservice to ourselves as a people. High blood pressure. Again, you're going to be like that because if you're not sleeping, your body is consistently in fight or flight mode. everything. There's no release in your body when I'm so sorry. Okay. So there's no relaxation, there's no repair mode and things like that when we're sleep deprived. So I want us to look at the different ways in which the different ways and the things that we do to compromise our sleep. Okay, so one of the major things that we need to pay attention to, that we no longer do. For those of us in the States, we know summertime, 9 o'clock, the sun is still up and things like that. That's a different kettle of fish. But I'm going to address for the persons Antigua, Caribbean based, it's pretty much, we don't really sway much in terms of sunset and things like that. Sunlight. Okay. Sunlight, getting out in the sun is going to be a huge way of resetting your circadian rhythm. Okay? It's going to be beneficial for allowing you to recognize when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down, there's something that happens in our bodies physiologically. We start to produce more melatonin, and melatonin is that hormone that we actually need in order to rest well. And so every time we put up resistance against sleeping, we leave the light outside. And then when it's dark, we come inside and we have all the lights on, we have the TV on, we have the computer on, our phones are on, and there's a constant bombardment of light. And that's one of the major ways in which we compromise our sleep. We're not supposed to be sleeping in bedroom with night light and things like that. First of all, we're grown, but it's important for us to sleep in pitch black rooms, darkness. It allows your body to recognize it's sleeping time. And we just need to do better where that is concerned. I'm also preaching to myself, people. So just know, even though I'm not seeing the comments, I do hope that there are no questions that I'm missing. I hope not. Please forgive me. But if there are any questions, I'll go in after the broadcast is done and try to address them. One of y'all sent me the most ridiculous comment ever. Anyhow, we move right along. The electronic devices now. Just know that, one of the downside that comes with the access to the internet, the Wi-Fi and things like that, it comes at a cost. It really does. And that's why it's important for us to use it as efficiently as possible, because we're going to pay. It throws our rhythm off, and it affects different organ systems in the body. But we love it and it's convenient, but we just need to be mindful of the fact that, devices, Wi-Fi everywhere. And if we don't have Wi-Fi, we're pulling out our hairs. I can agree with that. But anyhow, let's look at another thing that we often overlook: uncomfortable bedrooms. No, for some of us, I remember seeing a celebrity, and she was talking about the fact that she lives alone, and half of her bed is where she sleeps, and the other half is for everything else. It doesn't help. It doesn't help for you to have a whole bunch of things that you're not using on the bed with you. It's just there. You have you have your phone, you have your this, you have all kind of stuff. Food, snack paper and all that kind of stuff. It's important for us to clear our beds. It's almost like you're clearing your mind. Remember that everything has an energy to it, people. And we, as much as we try to forego that element, it's always there. So if you're noticing that you're not resting well, one of the things that I would recommend to persons, move your bed. Move your bed, turn it another angle in your room, do something, clear things out. And normally you'll notice when you clear your space, it makes a major difference. Go through your room and get rid of stuff. Get stuff out of there so that everything is free flowing. And normally the night when you did that, you rest a lot better. Get the things off of the bed, move it aside. So another way in which we interrupt our sleep is that we tend to drink a lot very late at night. And so we, you know, your body has to function. You're getting up how many times in the night because you have to pee. Try to get your fluids in earlier. If that's the case for you, if you have to be getting up several times in the night, then you have to, push forward the time in which you begin drinking so that you don't have that urgency every night. Now, like I touched on before, it's important for us to put life in perspective. Life is very stressful for some of us, but I often say it's because we don't really have a perspective on life. The truth is, every single stress that we had last year, we all survived it. Every single one of us survived it. And so when we think about, okay, you have a hostile co-worker to deal with and that type of thing, that's really not a reason for you to compromise your sleep because you had one before. You had one before, and chances are you're going to have another one in the future. And we just have to value the benefit that comes with sleep enough so that we're able to shut that down, that we're able to detach from the job and really enjoy the time that we have while we're in the present moment. So important. Bad relationships. I'm not somehow dismissing the emotional hit that comes with, a relationship that isn't functioning. But the truth is, I'm quite sure this is not your first relationship. And I am 100% sure that the emotional hurt that you're going through, it really isn't worth the compromise to your physical structure. This arguing, oh, this is another one. And just arguing just because. Sometimes I see people on the road. Traffic, I get it because there's a lot of craziness that takes place while you drive. But this combative attitude that I will sometimes witness, here's what we need to remember where anger is concerned, right? After an anger bout with somebody, your physical structure requires 7 to 8 hours to normalize itself. And when we put things like that into perspective, this idiot on the road, really? Let me see, this is 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to be paying for that with my body for 7 to 8 hours later. If this is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you do the math. You're in the bed and you're tossing and you're turning, you can't find a restful position because your body has not recovered from the anger bout. So when we think about, 7 to 8 hours, we will all truthfully will think twice about giving somebody that energy because that's the repair time that we require. It's not about the 15-minute argument. It's about, okay, I've thrown my entire body off. And now I have to go about my day, deal with my children. I have to interact with the people that I love and care for. And I'm not fully physically there because I would have given my energy and my essence to somebody who, what was it worth it? You know, we really, really have to consider whether the things that we do are really worth it. And it's important for us to remember, again, it's not no 15-minute argument. 15 minutes of arguments, yes, but 7 to 8 hours of repair. And every time I remember that, it allows me to, not you, no, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Another thing that compromises the way in which we sleep is going to be going to bed with very full stomachs. No, I think I touched on this in one of the conversations that we had before. The majority of our energy is used to digest food, digesting food. So if you're going to sleep with a packed stomach, rather than truly resting and sleeping, your body is working overtime digesting the food that you have in your stomach. So there's no wonder as to why when you get up after eating very late, you feel tired. You feel like, okay. In the Caribbean, we say, oh, I mean, they fight Jumbi all night. You know, because you slept, but you feel wounded in the morning because your body has been consistently working, working, working. So there was no true rest for you because your body was busy digesting food. Okay, the importance of balancing your hormones. And this is one thing that when we touch on the hormonal issues as a people, again, we tend to think about it as a woman thing. Yes, it's a woman thing, but it's also a man thing. Okay, it's important for us to pay attention to things like that. Work on balancing your hormones out, people. We need to do better as a people. And this is what you'll notice. Your hormones out of whack, it also affects whether or not you can just shut down and go to sleep because there's an overproduction of cortisol in the body. So you're just in fight or flight. You know, you have placed yourself in a position, and when I say that with no blame. You know, you've placed yourself in a position of not really functioning normally. There's nothing natural about the flow anymore because your hormones are off. And people do remember it, hormones are not just about if you're interested in procreating. It's not just about that. Hormones affect every single function in your body in some way. For the persons who have hypothyroidism, who can't lose weight and things like that, for the persons with hyperthyroid, it's all hormones. You know, it's not just the, oh, okay, I'm trying to have a baby, so I have to balance my hormone. And I often get a pushback from women who are older, right? Who, oh, I'm going through the change and things like that. It's a hormonal issue. It is a hormonal issue. The major discomfort that you have, if you paid attention to balancing your hormones during that time, your ease into it would be significantly improved. Anyhow, I can only encourage all of us to pay attention to the foods that we eat. Utilize your herbs, people. I'm going to get into the category of herbs later. But this is a new trend, Antigua people. This caffeine drinking thing. I think probably twice last month I called somebody and they were like, oh, I'm over this place. I'm just grabbing a cappuccino quick. I'm just, this caffeine thing, it sounds good coming off of the tongue as opposed to saying, oh, I just grabbing my bush tea. But the reality is, it's far worse. It's far worse than what we're accustomed to, and we have somehow gravitated to new normals or new cultures that are just, there's no reason for it. So when I say caffeine is a major thing, consider this, people. When you drink a cup of coffee, and we know why we drink it, because we somehow assume that we can't function. And one of the reasons why we can't function, because we're running on E, because of lack of sleep as well as other factors. But lack of sleep is a significant part of it. I cannot, in my right mind, justify being unable to function without a cup of coffee, unable to do the task for the day without a cup of coffee. What happens if all the coffees disappear off or you stop functioning? It's important for us to know these stimulants are stimulants, and they're highly addictive. So the persons who are like, oh, cappuccino and lattes and things like that, know that you jump on it, but it's usually very difficult to jump off of it. Usually very difficult. So if you're having issues with sleep, caffeine should be the last thing that you're even entertaining. And when I say caffeine, it's not just limited to your coffee. It also includes, let me not say it, but it also includes Coke, that we're so addicted to. Coke is, yeah, in some places on earth, Coke is cheaper than water. And you have to really question why. Isn't there water in the Coke? But it's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's cheaper. And I mean, there are different issues that come with that, but I just want us to remember where sleep is concerned. Coffee has, okay, let's say that you have a coffee 8 o'clock in the morning, right? By 6 hours later, you're going to have half of the caffeine in your body. 12 hours later, however, you still have 25% of it. That's the life of it in the body. So reconcile that in terms of it. Let's say you had a coffee at 11 in the morning. At 11 at night, you're still going to be running on 25% of that caffeine. And you're in bed and you're tossing, you're turning, you can't seem to shut it down because the caffeine is still in you. For those of us who are blessed enough to not have a caffeine addiction, knock on wood, and don't try and keep up with the Jones by saying, oh, I'm going to get some cappuccino and things like that. Ain't nothing wrong with the bushy that you're on now, Antiguan people. And when I also say caffeine, I'm also including them other things that I am convinced that they were designed to get us off of earth and nothing else. The energy drinks. All of a sudden, we don't have no energy. We don't have no energy to do anything. And yet, at the same time, we're not sleeping. Connect the dots. Connect the dots, people. It is there, it's plain as day, but we're so comfortable in our usual routines that we don't see what's happening. Connect the dots. We are always needing a boost, and we're not resting. Anyhow, so I touched on the uncomfortable bedroom, and another aspect to the bedroom too that makes a room uncomfortable: hot, dirty, dingy, all of that comes into play in terms of making the room uncomfortable. So that's another factor apart from clearing your bed and things like that. But yeah, take time to set your room in a way that's like a mini oasis from the rest of your house and things like that. Um, Exercising. Now, everybody knows how if you exercise, you're supposed to sleep well and things like that. And this is absolutely true. The time, however, that we exercise is very important. We shouldn't be gym jamming for those of us in Antigua. We shouldn't be gym jamming an hour before bed, 2 hours before bed. You want to at least be done with all your physical exercise by at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Okay, so pay attention to that as well. That's gonna just, the name in and of itself, it's gonna exercise you. And then leaving from that state to immediately demanding that your body now just unwind and relax, and it's a huge ask. So please, walking is excellent. You can walk later, but this rigorous exercise and things that we're doing, we need to shut that down in order to ensure that we're able to sleep well. Okay, so that's I think I've menopause. This is also another one that comes on the hormonal balance. Now, if your room is really, really hot, it's difficult to sleep. We're all very irritable when we're hot and sweaty and sticky. There's nothing conducive about that to sleep. And so the hot flashes that come with menopause, it's important again, pay attention to, them key things, balancing out your hormones, allowing your body to function more naturally so that you can get sleep, so that your maneuvering through menopause is a lot easier. Everything, it just goes hand in hand. Everything works in tandem, you know. So I think that's all I have on the way in which we interrupt our sleep. And now let's get on to the tips, because the last thing I want to do is to rile everybody up and tell them, oh, all the dangers of not sleeping well, or this can cause this and cause that and depression and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we're going to close off with some tips. It's going to be an earlier episode. I actually thought an hour, but we're going to work a little over that. But I do want us to have some beautiful takeaways. Now, how do we improve our sleep? We can do so by planning for it throughout the day. We may decide to utilize, if you watched last week episode, and notice good, I keep going back to that. If you have not watched that episode, please take time and do so. There were so many gems shared for our overall physical well-being in that episode. But breathing, the importance of the breath. The king, like I said, he is a master teacher where Kemetic yoga is concerned. And one of the things that he emphasized on that episode is the importance and significance of breathing, and that being the foundation of what he does. Breathing, allowing yourself to calm yourself down. And those are exercises that you could do, whether you do it earlier in the day or you do it in the afternoon or in the later part of the evening. It's still going to be beneficial because you're calming your body down by breathing well. Okay, I highly encourage you. Kemetic Yoga Skills on Instagram, on YouTube, sorry. Please check out his video. He has an excellent floor exercise that's just so simple. You don't need to be no fitness, nothing. It's lying on your back on the floor, and he takes you through a breathing exercise that's so calming to the body. It's going to be beneficial for if you're desirous of improving the way in which you sleep. Okay, so that's one of the things that we can do. Pay attention to our breathing, meditation, anything that's going to be getting you to a place of stillness, to just unwind and release some of the things that took place throughout the day, is going to be helpful for you to rest better at night. Walking, like I mentioned, that's a, you know, very, very effective way of, you know, exercising and bringing your body back into better balance. Just walking, just, it doesn't have to be an aggressive walk and things like that, but walking definitely helps. Another thing that we need to pay attention to is elimination. And so I think my Antiguan audience already know that I'm a huge advocate for voicing the importance of eliminating. We don't have a refrigerator system in our bodies, right? So if you're eating food, it is being stored in a hot environment. Stuffing yourself up and consistently being backed up with food, you're probably going to be twisting and turning in bed. You can't find a comfortable position because you haven't been eliminating. And so there's 3 days ago food still inside of you. 2 days ago it's still inside of you. So it compromises your ability to really rest, because our bodies are not designed to go, whether it is in the fetal position or to go to bed and have an impacted colon running side by side with that. So it does compromise that. What you'll notice as well, if you're not clearing your colon, if you're not, moving your bowels often, you will notice all of the different signs and symptoms of having parasites in your body. And believe you me, those parasites, a lot of them come alive and they're in their full buoyancy at nighttime. When you're down, they're up. Some of them, that's the time they come out to roam. And if there's a lot of food there for them, if you're not eliminating, they're going to be having a party inside of you. And people, again, I do want to remind us of the energetic impact of that. It's not just a physical thing. You're trying to rest and there's a carnival in your colon feasting on you. So it is, it is understandable that we struggle. We struggle to fall asleep under conditions like that because there's an energetic war taking place. Anyhow, I digress. But anyhow, the takeaway is it's very important for us to get into a habit that's consistent with elimination. I think we've embraced the notion of constipation to the point where I don't know. I don't know. I know persons who go to the doctor and they tell them they don't go until every 10 days and it's okay. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what is. But elimination, okay? So you have to make sure you're getting your body into a natural groove of getting rid of waste, because that's essentially what that is. It's waste. Okay, aromatherapy. Now, before I touch on aromatherapy, I think it's important for us to just remember to get a ritual. And when I say ritual, I don't mean, I just mean get a routine together where this is what you do every night. So let's say you're going to take a shower, then you're going to come in your room, you're putting on your diffuser with your essential oils, utilizing the aromatherapeutic benefits of these essential oils. We think that, your room should have a nice scent, yes. But let me caution us, right? If you're going into your room and you're lighting your candles and all you're burning and um, scenting your space with is synthetic fragrance oils, you're going to have trouble going to sleep. They're stimulants. They affect, they, anyhow, I don't want to go down that road tonight, but just know the essential oil based ones, the lavender scents, the chamomile, the vetiver, things like that, that are going to calm you and assist you with just wusa. And then what you'll notice is that as long as you have a routine together, there is an association to, from the time you smell that lavender, you're going to notice that you're ready to go to bed. You're ready to wind down because there's, that's how we are. We're creatures of habit. When we smell that scent, we know it's time for bed. And, that pattern would continue as long as, you're able to stick with it. The aromatherapy, the aroma, man, I can't talk. The aromatherapy benefits are major. Pull and be careful with the essential oils that you use at night. Some of them are energizing. Okay, so pay attention to the types that you're going to use. You're going to lean more on your frankincense, your myrrhs, your chamomile, your lavender. Lavender being, of course, probably the most dominant in terms of just calming and, giving you the right type of mood to go to sleep. If you're leaning on your citrus and things like that, those are energizing herbs. So don't trick yourself where that is concerned. And most times when you purchase your essential oils, it's listed what it's used for. Please use as directed in terms of, don't try get no citrus to get you to bed. Okay, there's a reason why they list that as energizing. Going back to this routine, the routine that you have is going to be very, very key. Again, a lot of us think that, okay, you get up and you go to work, you get up Monday through Friday, you get up at 6 o'clock every morning and you go about your day. And then on the weekend, you think that, oh, okay, well, I'm going to sleep until midday, or I'm going to sleep until 11, 10 in the morning. It's one of the worst things that you can do for your sleep in general, to have that, that significant difference between what you do on the weekday as opposed to what you do on the weekend. Yes, everybody, it's good to have more rest, but you have to balance that at the part that, we tend to go to sleep later on the weekend, and that's one of the reasons why we sleep more. So try to get to bed at the same time every day as much as you can. At least it should be within an hour of what you're accustomed to doing. And then, the whole thing with the party, the fetting, the socializing on the weekend and all that, put everything in perspective. There's absolutely no way that I can sit here and say, oh, well, no, you don't do this, don't go to no, social gatherings and things like that, don't go to a concert. That's not what I'm saying. But recognize it's better for you to get up and stick with your routine. If you're accustomed to getting up at 6 o'clock, are you coming in at 6? Yeah, the big difference, the drastic difference between the weekend and the weekday is a disservice. It actually doesn't really help. Another thing that we need to pay attention to in terms of regulating proper sleep is that it's important for us to sleep at least 3 degrees lower than what we're accustomed to. Okay, and I know studies say 65 to 67 degrees. And I know my Caribbean people looking at me like, what you're talking about? What 65 and what 67 degrees? What's that for us? But alternatively, what you can do is to have a hot shower. So what you'll notice now, when you have a hot shower, it increases your temperature, right? And then as you get in the bed now, your body will naturally drop down those 3 degrees. And so you're able to now feel cooler, calmer, and you're able to sleep better as a result of that. I know for me, I'm a light sleeper. So even with an AC running, I can hear it, you know. So for me, yeah, the trick is to bring your temperature down by having a hot shower. Um, yeah, so at least lean on that. For those of us who live elsewhere, who have, the necessity of always having temperature gauges, whether it is in the winter, you have to use a heater system, or in the evenings, or in the summertime, you have to use a cooling system. Give thanks for what it is, and if you're able to keep your dial between 65 and 67 degrees, that's the ideal temperature advice. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Another thing, another key ingredient is magnesium. Magnesium is responsible for over 150 bodily functions. And a lot of us, the majority of us, are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium, one of the key roles it plays in the body is to promote rest, and repair. And if we're deficient and we're not supplementing, we're not eating well, that's something that could actually be of assistance. I tend to recommend there's a magnesium calm for those of us who are looking for, like a guide as to what type. It's a powder, very, very calming. Of course, you know that with magnesium, you have to gauge your body. You have to listen to your body, because if you take too much magnesium, it's going to have a laxative effect in the body. And so, let's say you're using the magnesium calm powder, and today you use 2 teaspoons or whatever. Tomorrow you have the runs. The next day you have to dial it back. Okay, because that's the side effect of having too much. And so increasing magnesium promotes proper sleep. It reduces the amount of stress hormones released while you sleep or during the nighttime hours. And so that's very, very beneficial. Okay, herbs. I think I'll close off on herbs. Caribbean people, soursop leaf, number one. For those of us who are elsewhere who have access to it, soursop leaves. I know there's a lot of push towards soursop these days in terms of the cancer fighting benefits that tend to come with it, but it is a mild sedative. It's not something that, as opposed to taking a sleeping pill where you don't have a choice, it's out you're going, because it was designed to shut you down. That's not how soursop leaves function. And these are ancient practices that we had, throughout the Caribbean, in Africa and things like that. And we have kind of just strayed away from things like that. It was commonplace. Now you go people's house and everybody have, all the tea bags and stuff. And yes, I'm talking specifically to my Antiguan brethren and sisterins tonight. And those teas were made when? Maybe a year ago, if you're lucky, and yet in your neighbor's yard there's a soursop tree. We have to think about what we're doing, Think, think, think. Be very mindful. Soursop leaves are super beneficial. Chamomile, the chamomile flowers are also very helpful. Nutmeg is another one. With nutmeg, you do have to, don't overdo it with nutmeg. Nutmeg is something that you're gonna just add a little to whatever tea you're having. It's something that you can do alone, but it's a potent herb to use. And if you misuse it, you're going to run yourself in some problems. And when I say misuse, I'm talking about being very aggressive, utilizing an entire, um, let's say a bar, you know what it comes like. If you use that in a cup of tea, you may run yourself in problems. So be careful with nutmeg. Another one that's popular in the States is valerian root. Valerian root, that's another one that's helpful for calming you down and giving you good rest. One of my favorites would be blue vervain, vervine for Caribbean people. Um, Nervous system, getting, reducing that anxiety, reducing the panic, assisting with bouts of depression and things like that. That's your blue vervain. Okay, your holy basil will be really good. The other day I was actually lucky enough to come across some black mint here in Antigua. A king was growing some, and then, man, it's been years since I've seen black mint, but black mint is super, super helpful for winding and calming you down. Lavender, just like getting the oil, you can actually utilize the flower buds to make teas as well. That's really good. Wild lettuce is also very helpful. That's one of the herbs that is super useful for eliminating pain in the body. And so if you have that discomfort, then the wild lettuce is going to be helpful. Passion flower, that's another really mild one. Ashwagandha. Now, ashwagandha is one that it's an adaptogen herb. So if you take it at night, it kind of adjusts to what you want it to do in a sense. Um, so that's another one, great for balancing your hormones as well. Um, it is it is a stimulant in terms of increasing your libido and things like that. So that's another thing that comes with that. Sex. I know that doesn't come in the category of herbs, but that is another one that's helpful. Of course, your dopamine and all your happy hormones and stuff are released, and so that's very, very helpful also. Um, what else am I missing? I'm so sorry I'm unable to interact with you guys and to see, if there are any questions or comments or anything like that. But for the most part, this is what I have for you today. Um, as a takeaway, I think it's no. Let's not end it just yet. Let's touch on weed. And I know a lot of persons are going, oh, well, I know weed is good for sleep. And, we do that kind of thing. But let us be realistic with what's taking place in the weed industry. Let us not fool ourselves and act as if some of the weed that we get today are the weed that existed years ago. Ain't nothing go so. Caribbean people, you know, you know too well that that's not the sinsemilla you're accustomed to. Okay, it has been modified significantly, and so for persons who are reliant on things like that to go to sleep, it is a stimulant that will have you racing, and even though you're resting, fight or flight, fight or flight. Please pay attention to things like that. Gone are the days where you can just think of it in the old-fashioned context. A lot of yeah. So for those of us who are watching from in California and things like that, know what you're doing. Know what you're doing with that. I've seen major improvement to sleep patterns with the use of CBD oil, but know what the source is. if the source is tampered, if the source is AKA like the seedless watermelon or this and that, you know, foundation is important. So please pay attention to that, and know that that can have the opposite effect on sleep that we're accustomed to talking about, that we're accustomed to hearing and experiencing. Okay, so I think that's all she wrote today. I think that's it for today. Again, a major reminder. I think if nothing else is taken away from today's episode, I would love for us to remember that the powers that be over yonder have concluded that night shift work is a possible carcinogen. They would not come to that conclusion unless the evidence was in your face, blatant. So that says a lot. That's a major, major takeaway. It's not it's not a luxury anymore. If you're fighting cancer, you can't be on a carcinogen, and that's what sleep deprivation is. If anybody for you are in that situation, then you have to utilize that information. It's there. Google it. It's there right on your devices. Okay, so the time when we could say, oh, okay, well, I'm young and I'm this and I'll repair that later and things like that. There's no catching up on sleep. There's no catching up on sleep. There is tonight's rest, and we can only get tonight's rest tonight. There is no getting it on Monday. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining. Again, I feel like I've done it really and truly on my own because I wasn't able to see who's online or anything like that. But I do hope that there was something mentioned that was, a trigger or a stimulant to cause you to make some shift, or to even prompt you to do more research into the benefits of sleep, and also the negative impact on the body of sleep deprivation. All right, it is a key component. Gone are the days when we used to say, oh, the pillars are sleep and this and that, and we just simplified it: eating right, exercise, and things like that. It's so complex now. And it's complex when I say that. It's not like it's not any more complex now than it ever was. But we have just normalized behavior patterns that don't really express the value of things like resting. Take time out. Like I said, there's no benefit for you being in your room. And I forgot to give this tip as well. If you realize that you're in your bed and you're tossing and you're turning, you can't get to bed, get up and get out of your room. It's one of the best things that you can do. Come out of your room, grab a book, put lights on, and read. Do whatever you have to do, even if you're getting up to watch the TV or whatever. It doesn't matter what, but the importance is getting out of your room so that your mind doesn't associate your bedroom with sleeplessness and restlessness and tossing and turning, because again, even outside of that, everything is energetic. If you associate tossing and turning with your bed, that's what you're going to do in your bed. Toss and turn. And so if you're unable to rest, get up, move that energy elsewhere. And then when you're tired, you get up and you go back into your room. And so over time, you will associate your room with being tired and sleeping, making it easier for you to fall asleep. Set the mood again in your room, the confusion, the chaos of the entire house. Keep that separate and apart from what you do in your bedroom. if that's a necessity at all. Anyway, um, peace and blessings, everybody. It was lovely being with you. Um, I'll see you again next week, and I can tell you, next week episode is. I don't think I should tell y'all, or should I? Next week's episode, I have a king and a queen on the platform, and trust me when I tell you, y'all are gonna love it. I am actually very, very excited about it. Um, we're going to be talking about love. All right. That's all I'll say for now, and then I'll send the flyers out on both Facebook and Instagram during the week. And I know once you see the flyer, y'all are gonna be excited. So I will see you bright and early at 6 p.m. next week Sunday, and anticipating y'all to come out and support, because that is going to be legit, literally a fire episode. Peace and blessings, everybody. Good night. Have a powerful week. Um, Again, I'll reach out if there were any questions. I'll answer it in the comment section afterwards. Good night, everybody. Peace. Bye.